I'm going to introduce next speaker. He is Jyun Tang Lai, Adrian. He was born in Taiwan and he is currently pursuing a master's degree in English literature at the National Taiwan Normal University, where he dives like a passion goldsmith into the silences, awareness, and fractures of the modern soul. Everything is so profound this morning. His research centers on the representation of boredom in literature, particularly in works written by American expatriates. I'm sorry if I didn't pronounce this word very well, who wandered across continental Europe during the interwar years with half-filled glasses and half-written drinks. Between Parisian cafes and trains bound for nowhere, Adrian seeks to understand that in that ennui, not as a positive of action, but in my own words, as a sickness of a world coming undone. So, Adrian, you can explain more about all of this during your presentation.
Thank
Are
you.
you?
Thank you, Professor. Yeah, I'm here. Thank you, Professor. Muchísimas gracias, Profesora Velasco. It's an honor to be here. Hold on. So this is the thesis I've been working on, and I'm still working on it now. It's titled "Bored and Dead and Dull." This is extracted from Hemingway's writing when he was describing his daily taxi routine where back in the days when he was in Paris. So in my thesis, I try to explore what is the Hemingway's point of view on existential boredom. And I pick a one very specific novels, which is The Sun Also Rises, to talk about it because I think this is the very first novels where we get to see the first time we get to see what was it like for American expatriates as well as British expatriates back in the days when there was war, and they sort of not say flee, but they sort of travel to European continents with which is a continent that we know that has inspired the literature as well as arts and music and all kinds of arts arts that really influence the generation after generations. So I want to briefly just start with the writers, but I think Hemingway is a writer that needs no further introduction. So I'm just gonna briefly talk about what what makes Hemingway qualified to talk about boredom. So during his time in Paris, he has these writings about his self memoir. It's a movable feast, and he also accompanied with other American writers, Gertrude Stein, Fitzgerald, and Ezra Pound. Back in the days when expatriates were they're sort of like American intellectuals that travel to European continents for no specific reasons other than maybe they were trying to look for inspirations. They're trying to look for creation that could inspire their writings as well as their works. So Hemingway himself, he traveled to Spain and covered the Spanish Civil War as a journalist, and he drawing inspirations to write novels such as For Whom the Bell Tolls, and also the subsequent, which is the novels we're talking about today, The Sun Also Rises, where he show a strong penchant for his affection, his love for bullfightings and Spanish cultures. And now the book we're talking about today, if you look it up on the internet, The Sun Also Rises, you can probably find people comment on this book as in like a boring writings. That the writing itself is already boring. Or maybe people say Hemingway's bored because the sentences are concise, the dialogues are short, really short. It's all composed nearly like a subject, verb, and then object, or subject, verb. So this book, in short, it is about a group of American and British expatriates. They traveled from Paris to Spain, and the central to this story in fact, there's never really essential, but we can really see how the expatriates, what are their lifestyles back then, and how do they how do they engage in social activities, in social events. So in my thesis, I divide into two things. The first one is alcoholism. The second one is travel. So to me, I see these two elements in Hemingway's writing as so for example, we say alcoholism. I see it as a responses to existential boredom. And I pick two examples from my thesis. So the first one, this is a dialogue. It says that I've got to do something. I've got to do something I really want to do. I've lost my self-respect. And then the other one respond, you don't have to do that. And then we say, oh, darling, don't be difficult. What do you think it's meant to me to have had such a hell of a time that these last 2 days I've been so miserable. And then we have, I know you've been through hell. Oh, I'm a fool. I'm going to the hotel. Come with me, will you, and have a drink. So this looks like a very normal daily conversation between a man and a woman. But here we can see that the woman lost the self-respect, and then he later asked, "Hey, do you want to come up and do you want to have a drink?" So here I read it as like a alcoholism is sort of like a way to a to look for temporary solace for emotional despair, because we can see that back in the days interwar period, it's it seems like the traditional values are beginning to decline. We see the disappearance of the things that we human beings deem as important. There are gradually the people don't value it anymore. So I think here Hemingway is criticizing the society, be it as an American or other continents we're talking about here, as people are losing their traditional core values, and hence people are getting bored because if you lose the compass, what do you follow anyway? So here, I look into Hemingway's writing as he portrays the characters or expatriates really immerse themselves into drinking behaviors, and then alcoholism turns into like a response, their response to their existential boredom. Here, existential boredom, they are not questioning why do they, why are they here, or why do they leave. They are questioning as in they don't have any questions at all. They are not questioning anything. They are sort of maybe come to term with the reality that what it is what it is. The traditional value is gone. People don't value it anymore, and then we should probably just find a way to make ourselves feel better. And this way, probably one of them is alcoholism. And another one is I think this is more of a description of an expatriate. So you're an expatriate, you've lost touch with the soil, you get precious, fake European standards have ruined you. You drink yourself to death. You become obsessed by sex. You spend all your time talking, not working. You're an expatriate, see? You hang out around cafes. So here we have a very vivid description about expatriates, American or British, be that as it may. We have a very vivid image back in the days where foreigners in European continents, when they are inspired by the beauty or the treasure European continents have, and hoping that they could find inspirations from in these continents, we also see that they lost touch with the soil, as the Hemingway's writing indicates. And they sort of I think the previous speakers also mentioned this. They sort of they do the things that they don't know why they are doing it. So we are seeing that they don't have problem economically. So there's sort of okay, if we don't have economical problem, then why don't we just have fun, enjoy the moment? So enjoy the moment in this case, or alcoholism in this case, it seems like to expatriate is a case to cope with boredom when they don't even know they're bored. They're just trying to look for excitements, look for things to get, look for activities to engage with. And another one is the travel one. So in Hemingway's The Sun of Rises, we see that characters are moving from one place to another. They're moving from Paris to Spain to Pamplona to and also back to France for the San Fermin festival, right? So here I just mentioned one example because I think this one is pretty pretty clear enough. So in this case, the dialogue says, I'm going to go to South America. Why? I don't know. I just thought it would be a good thing to do. Don't you think that's a little bit like climbing a mountain because it's there? Maybe, but I've got to do something. I've got to do something I really want to do. I've lost my self-respect. So here we also see that the self-respect, the idea of traditional value, the self-image that is losing here, that prompts the characters wants to move in from one place to another, transitioning from one country to another country. But why do they do that? They don't have a clear idea why are they doing this. But they are trying to find a way to solve it, whether it be a existential boredom they are feeling at the current moment, or maybe we are talking about perhaps perhaps they are looking for a way to really um, delve into their own identity since they are in the foreign countries. They're not in their own native countries. So for existential boredom and the travel in this novel, it seems like characters are using travel to sort of like evading the existential boredom. But it's not really a evading existential boredom. It's more like a mirage. It's they're not really escaping anything. They're just trying to escape something by doing things that they don't even know why they're doing it. So I have a very tentative conclusion for my thesis, which is so I think Hemingway's existential boredom in his description is not a simple restlessness or like an inaction. It's more like a deep spiritual and emotional disconnection from the world and from oneself. Or even, if I may add, it is more like a criticism to to the disappearance of traditional values. And also, I would say that Hemingway's idea on boredom is pretty much is like a modern condition, you know, where traditional sources of meanings of work, love, religion, heroism have collapsed. So people don't see work or even love or treat religion as how people used to do. And this sort of like a collapse real is what leads to characters' boredom. And the last one is the characters respond to this void not by confronting it, but by engaging it ritual distraction like drinking and traveling it. So, like I just mentioned, it's they're not really trying to escape anything, or maybe they do want to escape, but they are not really doing it. They're more like engaging in vice activities that trying to seek thrills, trying to find something to do when there's no exact meaning to it. So it's more like they're trying to find meaning through meaningless activities, which is just drinking or traveling. So this is the overall my presentation, and I'm looking forward to professors' guidance or feedback, if you may. So thank you so much. Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Your presentation was amazing, Adrian. So yeah, we try to avoid boredom today by engaging in endless scrolling in our screens. It's more or less the same. Okay, do you have any questions, comments? I have a very short comment. Well, you
Sure.
know. Oh, okay, so you go first, Stanley.
Hello, everyone. Professor Velasco, very nice to meet you in real time.
Nice to meet
It's a
you.
pleasure.
Congratulations, Adrian. Well, my question is, if you could extract a general description of what is to be in this state of existential boredom, if you could extract a general definition for to be existentially bored, what would you propose?
Cool. That's a very good question. I think there's definitely more to delve into when we're talking about existential boredom, and I think many philosophers and scholars have already talked about it. But in my case, as a students and teenagers nowadays, I would pretty much see existential boredom is like a looking for a quest for a meaningful meaning in life or meaningful events, I would say. So I mean, in Asian continents, we often see students start questioning, okay, what do I do next after graduating? So this kind of question is, to me, is pretty much like an existential boredom questions because in Asian continents, our future is pretty much planned by our parents. But why do we do that? We don't really know. So the question of, okay, my parents have a plan for us, but why are we doing it? Or what exactly is the things we want to do? That question, I would say, is probably the thing I would extract from the general idea of existential boredom. Yeah, thank you.
The reason of existential boredom is maybe the lack of space for creativity today. Everything's plain.
Yes.
Yeah, I had only a very short comment. You know, Hemingway is Hemingway. Existential boredom is something we can expect to find in his works. I cannot read him. It's terrible. So when I was listening to your presentation, I was thinking that, for example, bullfighting in Spain is not very well seen, as you know, as you probably know. There is a lot of polemic around this. And maybe Hemingway's fascination with this, maybe, I don't know, his fascination with bullfighting makes me think about how existential or profound or chronic boredom sometimes leads to the taste for the for violence, for the suffering of others, for the extremes. And I would like to know if you have, are you familiarized or are you working on all that literature in which uh, science researchers have established the relationship between suffering from profound boredom? I totally understand that Hemingway talked about profound boredom because of the context in which he was writing. It's obvious. It's less obvious for me in current times, but you know there is a lot of literature putting in relation the fact that profound boredom leads to violence, terrorism, the taste for terrorism. You know, just
Yes.
that was just my comment.
I see. Yes. I think you in la enfermedad de aburrimiento. I think you also mentioned about this as well,
Mm.
where the profound boredom, existential boredom leads to violence, and I totally agree with these points. I think for Hemingway, but I don't think they are self-aware that the engagement in violence activities is caused by the boredom states. I think they're for sure more seek to looking into activities that can sort of like excite them, so that can give them thrills in a way. So that leads to bullfighting or even drinking and alcoholism I just mentioned. So the violence or all kinds of vice activities that we're talking about here, yes, I totally agree with the idea that it is connected. Yeah.
Mhm. But after all that kind of activities doesn't prevent existential boredom at all in the long term. So
Yeah.
I don't know exactly why this happens. Maybe in the psychological
Mhm.
panel can explain something about this.
Yeah.
We
Yes.
have
Yes.
a comment on the chat box by Annie. She said, I was reminded of the notion of orology used by Peter Toohey in his work on the history of boredom. The term is used for rich Romans who moved between the city and the countryside to avoid boredom without success. I was wondering if you think this type of boredom is connected to privilege. Very good question, Ami.
So I assume the privilege here, we are talking about the economic status, right? So I was I would say that yes, it's for sure connected. But I wouldn't, well, I shouldn't be saying for sure, but I would say yes, it's connected. And we can also see the writings back in the days where for the English writing that would be Victorian era. We can see women back in the days, they also suffer the existential boredom. And why are they suffering the existential boredom is also because the social status. Back in the days, women, they don't really have to work. Their husband provides them. So basically what they were doing is staying home. So the um the sufficient economic conditions that allows women to stay at home without working and cause the boredom. Well, of course, there are other scholars also say that the boredom, the female boredom back in Victorian era, it wasn't really caused by the privilege. It was more caused by the social constraints back in the days when the society is so oppressed toward women. So women have to do this, women have to do that. So these kind of restrictions, they are sort of like being rendered into like a boredom. But in terms of the type of boredom is connected to privilege, I think in a way, yes, it is. So people, when people have more resources, consequently, they will seek more. And once they are not able to obtain more, then yes, probably that leads to boredom. So, Professor Runkels, to the question, yes, I do think it's connected in a way. Thank you.
I would say that poor people also experienced profound boredom, and
Yeah.
Sierra Shared is gonna talk about that this during this afternoon, during the evening. So we will learn more about that later. Thank you so very much,
Thank
Adrian.
you.
It was very nice to meet you.